Hi, I'm Karen Wilson. Welcome to Table Talk. Tunnel to Towers Foundation honors the sacrifice of firefighter Stephen Siller, who laid down his life to save others on September 11, 2001. It also honors military and first responders who continue to make the supreme sacrifice of life and limb for our country. Our guest today is Joey Clark. He is an EMS technician with Warren County and also a volunteer firefighter at Centertown. He is also the local organizer of Tunnel to Towers event. Thank you for coming on today and talking to us about this. I have known of this event, but didn't, and I knew it was related to 9/11, but first let's go back. We were talking a little bit before we went on the air about 9/11. What are your remembrances of that day?
So I was in high school. I was a sophomore at Warren County High School, and I can remember right after our first period class, somebody came in as we were changing classes and told us that an airplane had hit the World Trade Center. So like everybody else, you're thinking, well, that's just kind of bizarre. And through the natural progression of things, you start just sort of gathering more information. We went to our next period class, and naturally things had escalated. So I remember being in Mr. Robertson Trocchio's algebra class, watching it on television, and again, the rapid escalation of it to the point that you were just, like everybody else, you were in shock, and you thought, what happens next? Because the first report is the first building gets hit, and the second building gets hit, and then the Pentagon's hit, and you're just like, wow, where does this end? It was very surreal, and even in that moment, you knew that it was something that was going to be life-changing and alter the course of history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it certainly did. I think, that is our day of in our lifetime of a memorable event that is, still sad. It just brings about a lot of reflection and that, but high school is also a very impressionable time, and I remember the shuttle disaster when I was in elementary school, and on a young mind that really makes a big impression. Sure. But even as an adult, when that happened, it was a lot of unknown and scary. So what were you, what kind of inspired you to become an EMS technician and a volunteer firefighter?
Well, I always tell people it beats working for a living. So I'm one of those very fortunate people that enjoys my job. That event obviously had an impact on me. My grandfather was a firefighter for the city of McMinnville. He retired as a captain. He's passed away now, but he was still on the job during 9/11.
Okay.
So I'd always had an interest in that, and I'd always had an interest in aviation. And through the course of my life, I've been fortunate enough to join the fire service, to go to work for EMS, and to become a pilot. So that event specifically was very seminal for me in that it impacted all of the things that I was interested in and held dear. I had a grandfather that was career military, so it was just an attack on everything that I knew and had been raised around. So like other people, many other people, I was inspired by that. So I joined the volunteer fire department when I was 18. Shortly thereafter, I went to work for Warren County EMS. I did that while I was in college and gaining my pilot's license, and I've done both ever since. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm one of those people that's very fortunate to enjoy what I do. Like many others, it's just become a responsibility that I've accepted.
Well, that's good that, something that's a tragedy can inspire so many people to step up and take leadership roles. We saw, a resurgence in people volunteering for the military and things like that. So I guess tell us about Stephen Siller, who was just one of the many heroes of that day, but that's who kind of the event is named for as far as Tunnel to Towers.
Sure. So Stephen Siller was a firefighter with Squad Company 1 of the New York City Fire Department. It's one of their special operations units that's based in Brooklyn, just over the river from Lower Manhattan. That morning, the New York City Fire Department changes shifts at 9 a.m. the first plane hit at 8:46 that morning. He had arranged to leave work just a few minutes early that morning because he had something to do that morning. So he had already left when the first plane had been hit. Because they were just over the river and they were a special operations unit, Squad 1 was one of the first units to actually be assigned. So as soon as he found out what had happened, he turned around and went back to his firehouse, and obviously his truck was already gone. So he gathered all of his gear, as we were talking about before we went live. Most, depending on what you carry, most firefighters are about 60 pounds heavier at a base when they put their gear on.
Mm-hmm.
So he gathered all of his equipment, again, it's about 60 pounds worth, and he put it in his car, and he went as far as he could, which was the Brooklyn end of the Battery Tunnel. And he couldn't drive any further because obviously everything was shut down and the traffic was just incredible. So he got out, put all of his stuff on, and he responded the rest of the way on foot. It was just a little over 3 miles. Ironically, it ended up being almost a 5K that he ran.
Uh-huh.
So he responded on foot through the tunnel to the towers of the World Trade Center. He found the rest of his company, Squad 1, rejoined them. They all went in and they all died. So Tunnel to Towers was founded by his family in honor of the run that he made from the tunnel to the towers. So it's named in honor of Stephen Siller's run, but the mission is to remember all of those that were killed on 9/11. But that's where the name comes from.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize, you think about, and that's kind of symbolically what happens at the Tunnel to Tower event.
Sure.
Not all participants, but those that are part of an EMS team or a firefighters or policemen or whomever, a lot of them will put their gear on.
Sure. The first time I did the Tunnel to Towers run in New York, which is really interesting because it completes the actual course that he ran.
Wow.
And in New York, there are about 30 to 35,000 runners that do this. And the very first one I ever participated in New York, in the corral beside me, was a North Carolina state trooper in his full uniform with his patent leather shoes, hat and all, and ran it just like he was on duty.
Mhm.
So that's something that veterans and first responders do to honor that. It's not required, but if you come to one of our events and you see folks that are wearing their uniform, their gear, and even as you and I were talking about before we started the interview, folks around town lately have been practicing that. You'll see a lot of our guys from the local fire departments that are practicing and conditioning in their gear, and it makes me feel. I was at a ball game the other night for my niece, and I saw one of the guys I work with in his gear walking the track practicing. And it makes me very proud that people see what we're doing and they want to be a part of that and carry that mission forward. So it's a really great thing to see that.
Well, and as we feel the summer starting to heat up, that's no small feat to put that on and run. So conditioning is the smart way to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm sure Mr. Siller's adrenaline was going, and so that kind of gets you through, but in an instance like this, it's good to condition. So tell us about what all takes place at the Tunnel to Towers event.
So it's something that has grown over the years. It's an evening event, and we've done that for a couple of reasons. We did that first off for the guys wearing their gear to make it safer for them, so the sun's not beating down on them. And plus, it makes it easier for the people that travel from out of town. We have a lot of people that come from other states to be a part of this. So it just makes things a lot easier for that, and just makes it a good community evening event. So we have the 5K run and walk, obviously. Again, it's not a race. We don't even time it, to be honest with you. It's not a race. We are there to memorialize people that have sacrificed for this country, and that is our goal. So we have the 5K run and walk where everybody is welcome, regardless of age, speed, skill level. It doesn't matter. We just want you to come in and complete the course for the purpose. So again, we'll have some folks that come in uniform and they complete it in their gear. We have this year we've got the Kona Ice truck coming. We're going to have food. We're going to have drink vendors, things like that. So it's really it's a big community event. We have other agencies that come and represent themselves. Last year we were fortunate to have the Metro Police Department, the TBI, Franklin Police, Tennessee Highway Patrol. We have people from all over the mid-state that come to be a part of this and to be a part of this night that we honor the folks that have given themselves for this country.
And as we talked about, this is the the 5K run and walk, and it's the Middle Tennessee. So you're getting people from all over the state and
Absolutely.
the area that come. So it makes it even bigger.
Absolutely. Last year we had 400 participants, plus volunteers, plus spectators, plus folks that just come out. Watching the registrations, we're already above pace for that this year, so I fully expect that we'll break 400. And it's something that grows every year, and we're very proud of that, because the more people we have, the more we're sharing our mission, and the more money we're raising for the cause.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. It being a fundraiser, what does the money go toward?
So the Tunnel to Towers Foundation it's a nationwide organization. We have, at last count, I think we had roughly 75 events nationwide. And what we do is we raise money to provide smart homes, custom-built smart homes for catastrophically injured veterans. We build a smart home that's specific to their needs, totally free. We pay off home mortgages for the families of members of the military and first responders that are killed in the line of duty. Notably, in Middle Tennessee, we've paid off for the 2 law enforcement officers that were killed in the Tennessee Highway Patrol helicopter crash. We paid off for both of their families. Officer Spencer Bristol with the Hendersonville Police Department, we've paid off, unfortunately, we've paid off quite a few in this region. That's what we do. And lately, we have also added homeless veterans to our causes. So we're breaking ground on what we call veteran villages to provide housing for veterans in need. So that is what our mission is to provide for the people that have sacrificed for this country. And what is so unique about Tunnel to Towers, and what I think really entices people like me, is the overwhelming majority of our staff is actually volunteer. We have very, very few paid staff relatively. We have very little overhead. Even our national CEO, Frank Siller, you see him all over Fox News, he is the CEO of our foundation and receives no pay. So it's actually, this year it's more than that. Roughly 95%, a little over, of all the funds that we raise go straight to the mission. So
That's wonderful.
People like to know where their money's going. More than 95 cents of every dollar that we raise goes straight to the people who need it. So we're very proud of that. We're very proud of having very little overhead.
That's awesome, because yeah, that's the big thing, especially when you're giving on a national level.
Sure.
Sometimes you wonder about how much is it going to paid employees and things like that. So that's awesome. The event, it's very inspiring and a wonderful way to remember the first responders and firefighters and the New York Police Department from 9/11. I noticed in some of the pictures there's a board when you start the race with a lot of photos on it. What is that symbolic of, or what is that?
So we have it's a banner that we place on a rigid frame that has a picture of every firefighter and law enforcement officer that was killed that day. And there were law enforcement officers from numerous agencies that were killed, from local, state, federal agencies. 343 New York City firefighters were killed. There was 1 New York fire patrolman that was killed. 37 police officers from the Port Authority Police Department were killed. 23 from the New York Police Department, New York City Police Department. 3 New York court officers. There was an FBI agent that was killed, and it goes on. So we do that. We have this board that is set up that has all of those people's picture on it, and it really brings things into perspective, because one of the things that is also very unique about our event is that we have run badges, and I actually brought mine to show you.
Okay.
We have run badges that we place for every participant to carry a picture of a first responder that was killed that day. And that's something that becomes very personal to a lot of people, especially first responders. Every year when we build the badges, I know that Maggie Fan is going to carry Captain Kathy Mazza of the Port Authority Police Department. I know that Slade Rogers is going to carry Joseph Mascali from the New York City Fire Department. So we have and that's just an example, it goes on. So we have people that it becomes very personal to them, and they're very dedicated to complete our runs. I have carried the same firefighter every year for a very long time, and every run that I've completed and every stair climb that I've completed, I wear a bracelet with his name on it. His name's in my helmet. So for those of us that really accept this as, again, part of our responsibility, it becomes very personal. So we have a lot of people that request the same badge every year, and we honor that request as best we can. So not only do they have the symbolism of carrying that badge during the run, so that you're, again, symbolically basically helping that person complete his journey that they died trying to make that day, but you're able to really see it all quantified. And when you just see this enormous banner with just picture after picture after picture of people that made the ultimate sacrifice that day, it really brings it into perspective. And a lot of people will, again, they find a lot of meaning in going and finding their honoree's picture on that wall. And a lot of people get their picture made with them. Something that makes me very proud is we see a lot on social media, and people will reach out to me afterwards after the run. Many times people, whoever they carry, will research that person. And we encourage them to do that. Realize that was a real person that went to work that day expecting to do their job and didn't come home. So that's something that's part of our mission, to educate people about 9/11 and to make sure that, again, one of our core missions is to make sure that that's never forgotten. So that just really helps us remind folks that, yes, it's a great event, it's a fun event, it's something we love doing, but these are real people. These are real people that have families that miss them. And we want to make sure that their memory is carried forward.
Well, tell us about your person, your firefighter. I'm sure you know quite a bit about him.
So yeah, so I honor Captain Frank Callahan. He was the captain of Ladder 35, or colloquially what they refer to as a 3-5 truck, the Caveman, the Upper West Side. And I have had the honor and the privilege of befriending people that knew him, that worked with him, that were part of that house. I've been invited to come and visit that firehouse, to be a part of that, and again, it really brings that into perspective. And it makes that connection, it makes it real when you meet people that are connected to somebody that died. But Captain Callahan was, he was the captain, the commanding officer of 35 truck that day. They were assigned to the South Tower. In that firehouse, there are actually two apparatus. There's Engine 40 and there's Ladder 35. Engine 40 was already sent out. And Ladder 35 got the call to go down on the 5th alarm for the South Tower, the second one that was struck. So all those guys loaded up. They started down the West Side Highway. By the time that they had left, both towers had been struck, so it was very obvious, kind of what we were talking about, that this is something that is well beyond just an accident. And I think that's something that really makes that very personal to me, and it illustrates the gravitas, because I can imagine sitting in the front right seat of a ladder truck. And again, when you go to New York and you get to meet these people and you're part of this foundation, you see it. And there's pictures to this day, you can look it up. Those guys responded down the West Side Highway, so they had a clear vision of what they were going at. And anybody that has done what we do for any length of time knows the gravity of that situation. And there's report after report after report from that day from people that had a very high suspicion that they were going to die. And they went anyway. So that is something that is very moving to me, to realize what those guys knew they were doing. And they made the swing out of the firehouse, and they looked at it, and they hit the siren switch and went. So Engine 40 and Ladder 35 responded from that house, and of all the guys that left, 2 rigs full of people, only one survived, and he was catastrophically injured. 35 truck, which was Captain Callahan, there is a picture of them. You can find it on the internet. There's a picture of them in the lobby. And there's actually video of it. It was caught on a security camera. And it gets very moving to me, because you see these guys lined up with great discipline, and you see Captain Callahan in the very front of it as they enter the stairwell. And they enter the stairwell and they made the climb to their death to go and get people out. So that's the reason why it's very moving and very personal for people like me. And again, I mentioned Slayton Rogers earlier. He's been in contact with his honoree's family. And I have a personal friend that was not from 35 Truck, it was from Rescue 3. I have personal friends whose father was killed that day. So again, it just kind of brings it home, and it makes what you're doing very meaningful when you realize that people still have a connection, they still hurt, and they appreciate the efforts that you make.
Right, because I mean, here we were in Tennessee, pretty helpless, and our hearts were going out to them, but that really, bringing those people back to Tennessee with you and telling their story, because they were there to help the country as a whole, not just the city of New York. But what a great way to bring their story back to us and to share their life. That's amazing. And I'm sure going to the event in New York is such a awe-inspiring thing.
Oh, it's incredibly moving. And again, when you meet people that are still connected to it, and it's still very raw to a lot of those people there. It's been, it's 2001. This year it will have been 23 years ago. But in many ways, those of us that have a memory of that, it doesn't seem like that. It's still very raw. And again, that's part of our mission, is unfortunately, we saw evil that day, and evil still exists. So it's very important for us as a country to realize that at any given moment, that day could happen again. And that's part of what we try to do, is we try to honor that memory and to educate people about that, because we have no way of knowing when the next generation is going to be called to serve in a sacrifice.
As we're seeing with Israel and Palestine right now, I mean, there's a lot of similarities, I guess, as far as terrorism goes, and it still brings about the thought that it's alive and well and can revisit our land at any point.
Absolutely.
So we'll tell our audience how they can sign up to run or walk, or even just, you know, I know anybody can come, and it's at the high school, is that correct?
It's at the high school. I need to call out the Warren County High School, or the Warren County School System and School Board. They have been with us since the very beginning. We have had their enthusiastic and unanimous support. They basically every year offer us anything we need to make this happen. It's an amazing community event, and that's something I always wanted it to be. I cannot tell you how proud I am of the community for picking this up and embracing it. There's so many businesses that come forward to sponsor us and to be a part of this. So many community organizations, the McMinnville Fire Department, the McMinnville Police Department, Sheriff Matheny and the Sheriff's Office. All of these people support us, and, you know, and one story of that is Judge Moore. Judge Moore contacted me about a month ago. He helps us every year. He's wonderful for this community. Contacted me, he said, Tunnel Towers is coming up. What can I do? How can I help? So we have so many people like that come forward, and the school system is great to support us. So yes, it's actually at the Warren County High School in front of the gym lobby around the flagpole is where it starts and finishes, but it incorporates the entire campus. So we will accept registrations, actually walk-up registrations. We encourage people to register early, and you can register online at t2trun.org. So that's the letter T, the number 2, the letter T once again, and the word run, all one word, .org. You can find us on Facebook at Tunnel Towers Middle Tennessee. And again, we'll accept walk-ups. We're having packet pickup where we will accept registrations on Friday, May 31st at Mad Cow Running Company on the Strip from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. And we'll accept walk-up registrations that day. So we strongly encourage folks to come out and be a part of this. Learn about the foundation, what we do, and do our part to kind of honor what happened that day.
Yeah, and it's there's a fee to do it, but that all goes toward, I guess, the fundraising part of it.
Yes, all proceeds from this event go to the National Tunnel to Towers Foundation, and once again, it's to support America's veterans and first responders.
And that's great that you all are expanding into the homeless population as well. And then anybody can come. What time of the day does it start? You said evening.
It's an evening event. We ask all our vendors and all our exhibitors to be set up by 5 p.m. The actual run ceremony will start at 6:30, but we have some other stuff that's going to occur. So gates will open beginning at 5 o'clock. So we encourage folks to come out. Be a part of this, kind of see what we've got going on. Get your parking spot early because it ends up being big every year. So just come out and enjoy the evening with us. Learn about the foundation and how you can be a part.
All right. Well, thank you, Joey. This has been so informative and moving, and to know that our community is supporting this in such a big way. And I think I'm going to take it upon myself to be a part of this and learn more about it. That's our show for today. I hope you found it very informative and inspiring. We invite you to come back again next week for more Table Talk.